Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I am joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Pinkava.
Hello.
And this week, as always, we are sponsored by Lynn at chickenladyfiberarts.com, and she has absolutely beautiful yarns that you can get your hands on. This is her colorway, Don't Panic. I got it on the Sparkle base, the DK Sparkle, because who doesn't want neon sparkly colors, am I right? You can get your own by using the code FOOL20PIK for 20% off of your order. And don't forget to sign up for Lynn's newsletter, because she has special codes that she gives out. Like if there happens to be an extra week in the month, you might get a free shipping code or something like that. So make sure you get on her newsletter so that you can get your own awesome stuff.
And speaking of her newsletter, so while we're recording this, her newsletter just came out today, and she had her new Isom colorway come out based on the main character in Eric July's Rip-A-Verse. So it's super cool. There's lots of oranges and yellows and blacks, and it's very, very fun. So get her newsletter so you can see the new stuff coming out.
It was very cool. And we also have a giveaway this month.
Yes, this is a one-of-a-kind DK sock yarn that she has. It is absolutely beautiful. Enter the giveaway by commenting below on YouTube or on Rumble. And at the end of the month, we're going to choose a random person to win. Or you can just go to our website now. And again, the code is FOOL20PIK for 20% off your purchase.
Yeah, and that giveaway didn't show, but there's also a t-shirt. There's also a little measuring tape. So it's a lot of fun stuff. Make sure you sign up for it.
But yes, you can get her t-shirt. It's fun.
Cool stuff.
But yeah, I never knew she had t-shirts before. I don't know if she sells them on the site, but this might be like an extra special exclusive.
I think it might be. So make sure you sign up. Make sure you comment to get entered. So with our business out of the way, I am very excited to let you guys know that we have a fabulous guest on today. We are joined by the famous artist Birdy Rose. Hi, Birdy.
Oh, hi there. How you doing?
Oh, fantastic. I've been looking forward to having you on we've been talking about this for several weeks. And then as I was saying before we started, I'm so glad we booked you, because now you're going to be like the extra famous artist Birdy Rose, because of your viral. Does it count as viral or not yet?
I don't know. I don't know what viral is these days.
Yeah, I don't know what makes something viral, but Birdy's got a video that she put out about the whole Posey Parker, Kelly J. Keene thing that's got over 20,000 views now, and it's only been out for what, 4 days?
Yeah, about 3 days, I think.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one but you don't get a choice, do you, in what takes off and what doesn't? It's just what it is.
It is. And you know, all of your videos are good. I don't watch them all, but I've seen several. But I don't know, there's just something about the editing and the way you presented everything. And it was well laid out. It was very easy to follow. It was, because like I was talking to people who hadn't heard about anything that was going on. And I said, here, watch this video, because this one tells you everything you need to know so perfectly. And it's just fantastic. Very good job. But,
Thank you. I wasn't sure how it would come out, because I basically just, when I film, I just try and think about what people who don't really know what this is about is going to need to hear. And that is exactly what you just said. But that is all I think of. Or I try and imagine myself just telling somebody in person how I would tell it to them. And that's how I do it. But it's nice to hear. Good to be back.
Yeah, no,
Right.
It's awesome.
You do put in the very relevant clips too, that it's like, okay, this is what happened, with Posey, this is what happened. This was a woman's reaction video, or not a reaction video, but a woman who was at the protests, and I believe talking about people who were there and weren't able to hear what she had to say because of the violence against Posey Parker at the protest. and, other relevant clips that, this is the first person information interspersed with, okay, this is the various degrees of what is happening.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because we've got access to all of that information straight away in real time. Like, I didn't see what was happening on the night because I had a migraine. So I went to bed early. And then I woke up the next day and I saw all of these videos and all of these posts. And straight away, I just collected it all. And that's what you do nowadays, isn't it? You can see everything in real time. It doesn't have to be filtered through a news station 2 days later. It's done now.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, but, how, the news moves so quickly now that sometimes if it's, if everything is on Twitter, let's say, it's like, okay, we have this video, this video, this video. And then it's a couple days later and you're like, wait, what happened? Well, we've already moved on to the next thing. So you grabbing the videos and be like, okay, this is what happened. You don't have to get lost. You don't have to have it in all these different directions. Here we go down the line. It is very
there's a lot of
tool.
stuff. There's a lot of stuff I missed out of it as well. But as with all of my videos, I end up editing them down to what I think is crucial. And I cut out all of the bits that I think are not necessary because people want things in a shorter format now as well. So I can't do a 1 hour long video on it and expect everyone to listen. They need it quick. They're going to listen to it on the way to work or while they're doing a bit of washing up or while they're doing something else. They're not going to sit down and actually listen to a long form. And people do listen to long form, don't they? They listen to podcasts and stuff. But when they're getting current events, they just want it. They want to know now what happened.
Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it?
It kind of depends on, if you're not a person who often does deep dives into things, it's like, okay, just I don't know what's going on, give it to me quick. And then other shows are more like, okay, this is the longer drug out version. But I mean, it depends on the attention span. And even the people who like the longer drug out version will be like, okay, quick version first. Okay, then I'm more interested. Or, okay, I got enough information. I can move on today.
That's actually how it works for me because I don't have a lot of time. I'm trying to homeschool my kids. I'm trying to run my business. I'm trying to do a lot of stuff. And so like a half hour is really good. And what happened after I watched yours is I watched everything I could because like some of the stuff you said, like I had seen it and I knew what was going on, but then some of the way you said things and for anybody who missed it, who may be watching, can you give us like the 30-second clip of what it's about?
I suppose it's about the fact that people are not being told the truth about what happened there. They're being led under the impression that this was some sort of like bigoted, sort of like Nazi rally. Nazi rally comes up a lot. And that these women were not welcome to speak in their own country. I mean, I know Kelly J flew in there, but all the other women are from there. And it is portrayed in the news as something that is controversial and shouldn't be happening. And I showed the clips of how these men were attacking and beating up these women and screaming at these women. And I wanted to portray a message of you don't have to be afraid to see this and say it's wrong. Because you can see it, it's wrong, and then you keep your mouth shut because what? Because somebody might call you a bigot. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. This is escalating. And people need to take that seriously and not be afraid to look at actually what's happening. Because I think what's happening is other people are scared to say what it is they're seeing, and they shouldn't be. But I was just putting out a message to say, keep your chin up, because I think this is going to get better. I do think it might get worse. Obviously, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it does take a lot of people speaking up and more people you don't even have to have a hard stance on the issue to say what I've seen is wrong. Does that make sense? Like if I saw a trans rights activist getting beaten up, I would still say that's wrong. Even though I don't agree with the person, I would still say what I've seen is wrong. I don't understand people not doing it, but I just want to, if I have to keep saying it on every video, I will.
Right. And it's interesting too, because on the, I don't know, the more quote right leaning or conservative, though I know Birdy, you're not necessarily conservative, but was considered, right of center, that, I mean, we all the time will be like, hey, if, like you said, if a trans activist is getting beat up I'll say that's wrong. But you don't see a lot of that from the leftward leaning side of people saying, hey, this, this violence is still wrong, or the way that these people are treated are still wrong. I mean, occasionally you do, but it is pretty rare.
No, they don't see it as wrong. They see it as justified because these people are the baddies. They've been given the baddie label. So once somebody's been given the baddie label, it's fair game. It's open season on you. You can have anything done to you and people won't say it's wrong. And I think that is despicable. And I don't know why people, because I come from the left, I don't know why people on the left are not standing up to it. I do a little bit, but I don't feel like it's a good enough excuse. Does that make sense?
Right. Mm-hmm. No, totally. And I would also say that was something that, our mutual friend Carrie Smith said that sort of brought her over, is that when she saw videos of, Trump supporters getting beaten up in the street, and that was really eye-opening for her, that, hey, why isn't anyone saying this? This isn't right.
Yeah. But people on the left think it is right, though. They think it's absolutely justified. It's totally fine. Look, when a couple of years ago, before I even got cancelled, when the punch a Nazi thing happened, that really happened over here. I don't know if it happened where you are, but it started off with like throwing milkshakes at politicians that are on the right. And I didn't like that either, because I said, well, how long till that milkshake is acid or something lethal to somebody else? And people that around me that are on the left said I was being ridiculous, that's not going to happen. And even if it did, well, they're the baddies. And that was the answer. And when I said about the punch a Nazi thing, I said, well, how long is it going to be until punch a Nazi becomes punch Birdy Rose because she's a transphobe? And people argued with me, intelligent people that claim to know their history, argued with me that is not going to happen because I'm not a Nazi. And I said, but your definition of a Nazi isn't the same as everybody else's at the moment. And this definition is broadening to everybody who's not kissing the arse of the extreme left. And people didn't believe me. They called me a conspiracy theorist. And now that's what's happening. And I wish I'd listened to myself a bit more back then as well, because I allowed the doubt to set in when people were calling me a conspiracy theorist, and I allowed myself to doubt myself. But I shouldn't have doubted what I was seeing. I should have stood by what I think. And maybe I should have even said it louder, because I don't feel bad. I don't have a hard time sleeping at night knowing that I'm saying all this stuff, because I think I should say it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's actually funny. Anne and I were talking about that on our episode last week, where these people that are shouting you down, I think they're doing it because they know, at least to a small extent, that they're maybe not on the right side. And so they're shouting at us and they're calling names and they're doing all these things because I think deep down inside, they know that maybe they're wrong or they shouldn't do it this way or whatever. And the rest of us are like, call me a racist, call me a transphobe, whatever, because I know I'm not. So if that's what you got to do, whatever. And
yeah, I totally agree, because I don't care about the names anymore. And actually, I think all of these words don't have any meaning. And the worst one for me is Nazi. Nazi has lost its meaning, and people get upset with me when I say that. But how can you say it has a meaning when someone like me gets called a Nazi for not believing that men are women? Come on, get a grip. It's lost its meaning. And if you're upset about that, it's because you should be upset about it, because it's disgraceful that this has lost its meaning. But I'm not scared of getting called names. I've been called all the names. I got called all the names at the very start. So I'm not bothered. Call me a racist, call me a Nazi. I don't care. Those words don't mean anything. If you're upset by me saying those words don't mean anything, maybe you should examine why you're calling me those words.
Right. And I would also say that, I mean, this is not a new thing, but, calling everybody Nazi, Nazi, Nazi all the time has erased the meaning, because when you run into people who are proper Nazis, or when you see and you're like, hey guys, this looks an awful lot like Nazism, National Socialist Party, this is a real issue. Or Gina Carano getting in trouble by saying, hey, how did the Holocaust start? By othering certain groups of people and by society saying it was okay to harass certain groups, and Gina Carano got canceled for that. It's like, but you have to be able to say it. And,
no, you can't. You can't now.
Right.
I got in trouble last week because I said that the Holocaust was not about trans. And oh my days, people were not happy about that.
Wait a second. People were trying to convince you that the Holocaust was about trans people?
Yes, and they said that I'm a Holocaust denier and that this is legitimately classified as Holocaust denial, to say that the Holocaust wasn't about trans. But the thing is, transgender in our society, that word wasn't even about until the 1960s, like 20 years after the Holocaust. So I don't know what they're talking about. I think it's this history revisionism is what they're doing, trying to rewrite history around themselves.
Right,
yeah,
but
it's like our current struggles are every struggle that has always been, and you're like, really, there are differences. You can say in your own mind, you're like, well, our current struggle, you can say it's kind of like when these people did this, and I'd be like, okay, you can relate what you're going through now to somebody else, that's fine. But that you take it the opposite direction and you're like, this historical event was about my struggle now, you're like, no, you can't. The entire history of the world is not about you.
Are you sure? But the thing about like the Holocaust, we know that the Jews were targeted, and we know that they also targeted other people. So that's not, I'm sure you're not saying that other people weren't also targeted, but really it was the hatred for Jews and for people that were different than the Aryans and the ideal that caused the trouble.
The trans activist I argued with actually said, I'll send you the screenshot later, but actually said something along the lines of that the Holocaust was about trans, and then in brackets, alongside other people.
I would
the
say
Jews were alongside other people, and trans were the main target, right?
Right. No, I would say that they've gotten their history mixed up just a tad, and the thing would be it was Jews with alongside other people, because
other undesirables, right?
Right.
Undesirables in society.
Absolutely.
I don't say that in my words. I say that that was the mindset.
Yeah. But that's shocking to me, and part of the reason, I mean, obviously your awesome video about Posey Parker is, you said so many things in there. I know that we went away from that, but I just want to, like, you talking about how these men insisting that they're women takes away our value. I never really thought about it the way you were saying it. Like, why should I be called an incubator? I was born this way. I am what I am. I am not a period haver or a menstruator, or a chest feeder. I'm a woman that had babies, and I breastfed them, and I built them inside of my body, and dudes will never be able to do that. I don't care what kind of dress they put on, what kind of surgery they have.
I don't get why they get to be called women and we don't, and we're like shoved to the side. We're like below them now. We're a subset of women, and I don't understand that, and I don't understand why women are comfortable with that. Like a few years ago, before I got cancelled, I had women coming up to me and saying, "Oh, well, I don't know what it's like to be a trans woman because I'm just a cisgendered woman," and I was taken aback by it. I was like, "They're men. Of course, you don't know what it's like to be a man that wishes he was a woman because you are a woman." Like, it's crazy to talk like this. You're gaslighting yourself, and it's people. I think it is people wanting to be a good person. Although I hate that narrative, because the vitriol that I've faced from these people and being cancelled, it makes my perception of these people very negative. But I can see there is truth in people wanting to be good people, and that's why they would be so submissive as to denigrate themselves to status of lesser than a woman, to elevate a man as a woman just to be nice. But I kind of don't like it because I see it as insidious.
No, it is. And it's, I think when the trans movement started, and I was on this last week too, because I just, since everything happened, I just can't believe this is a conversation. Like, oh, everybody's fighting about men and women's sports and different things. And like, when all this started, I didn't think it was right, but I didn't think it would be to this point where we're going to have a group of transgender people and their supporters beating up or attempting to beat up actual women because they want to talk about being women.
Yeah, I mean, this happened years ago. I think it was 2017, a young man who's a boxer, punched a 60-year-old woman called Maria McLachlan in the face. It's on video. Magdalene Burns did about it, a video about it on YouTube. And he went to court, and he went to court as a woman. And there was all sorts of weird shit happening with this court case. Like the women that went to court were in support of Maria McLachlan were told to leave the courtroom and take their suffragette badges and flags off because it was offensive to the trans people in the courtroom. And then, online they were claiming that we stole that flag off of non-binary people or whatever. I don't know who we stole it off of, queer people. And there's just lots of power plays going on here. Like he went to court and pretended to be a victim, even though there's video evidence of him punching her in the face. And they wanted Maria McLachlan to refer to him as a she, and she refused. So she didn't get to the outcome that she wanted. She didn't get her justice because she refused to perjure herself in court by referring to this man as a woman and saying that a woman had punched her when she knows that a woman hadn't punched her, a man punched her.
Right.
It's crazy.
Sort of, yeah, when the legal system says that you have to have a certain ideological,
you have to perjure yourself.
Yes, that you have to go along with what this person says.
It's not just that. You have to. When you perjure yourself, you're breaking the law in a courtroom under oath. The judge is telling you have to perjure yourself. You have to break the law. Otherwise, you cannot seek justice. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I think I missed that because even though I've been political for many years, I wasn't where I am now. So a lot of stuff was going on that I kind of missed. I was not Anne, who was 12 and watching the news and following Rush Limbaugh. And, I was kind of a casual conservative where I kind of knew what was up, but I had no idea that happened back then. And even in the 6-7 years since then, the internet has changed so much, and I'm sure that that's part of why it's so much more visible now. And
well, it's not just that. I mean, that happened in the UK, so I wouldn't expect you to know about it. But also, people in the UK, when I said about it, when it happened, I wrote on Facebook about it. This was before I really had a presence on the internet, and people straight away, people were telling me, "You're lying. This never happened. This is just right-wing propaganda." Just outright, and I'd put the video and they'd go, "This is fake." So it's insane the level of aggressiveness that people are coming at this. And even now to this day, people will outright say to me, "You're lying. You keep lying about this. This is fake. These videos are fake. These photos are fake. You're just a liar." And it's at some point, people got to be brave enough to step around the person calling me a liar and have a look at what I'm saying, or anybody else who's speaking up. Because what happens is when that person steps in and says, "She's lying," everybody else steps back and goes, "Oh, well, I'm afraid to go there now because this might be propaganda." And they get a little bit wary of it. And I think that's what it's designed to do. When you say that someone like me is lying, or I'm only saying what I'm saying because I'm hateful and because I want people dead and stuff like that, it does scare people off. And I think that's another reason a lot of people haven't ventured down this rabbit hole to find out what's going on.
Right. And I would say that it's kind of interesting with people who are stuck in their own media narrative and, different narratives that happen. And okay, we are built to run on stories. And if you have a news story, it's very difficult to say this is an isolated incident and this is an isolated incident. So even, if you're telling the truth, you kind of, you have, to a certain extent, you have to say, okay, why is this incident important? And then you go through this stuff happened in the past and it led to this, and this is the stuff that goes forward. You do have a storytelling element to bring it all together, because otherwise individual things might not make sense. And what we're kind of dealing with now, and is that you have two very different narratives and different people who are following very different narratives, so that when they intersect with each other, it's like I don't understand, how you're someone who may be a trans activist, their story payoff, the story is built up like this person is trans, and then the story completes in, aren't they great for doing this? Okay. And the more conservative side may be like, hey, this is an issue because women's sports, women are no longer succeeding in their own arenas. And we talk about it very differently. And when you have those two groups intersect, that it's like, well, you must be lying, because that's not how the story payoff goes in my mind. That you
Okay,
have
I have two things to say about your theory. The first thing I'll say is they're not just operating on a different story, they're operating in a different language as well. And the second thing I'll say is I know this might sound a little bit petty. I know what you meant, but I'm going to say this anyway. I don't necessarily think it's trans activists versus conservative. I think it's people who believe in a religion, think it is a religion at this point, versus everybody else. And they're trying to force us into that. And I don't want to comply with that religion. I'm not against religions. I'm not against belief systems or faiths of any kind, as long as I'm not obliged, coerced, forced, or bullied into it.
Right. And I think that you hit it on the head there, is that we live in a society that used to be very much based on religion. People had this book we followed. I mean, Anna and I, that's still how we operate, but it tells us what to do and what's good and what's bad. And I think that we see this crazy activism partially because now that people don't have that, there's a vacuum. They need something to guide their beliefs. So if you're not going to be a moral person, or not that they're not moral. Well, I guess they aren't, because they're trying to do weird things to kids. So but you need something to guide you. And so that is truly what it's become. You get a vacuum, and that's when these crazy things come up. There's a vacuum in Germany after World War I, and then that's when Hitler was able to come in. You get a vacuum, and these people don't have something to believe in. And now we see trans rights and pride and all of these. The way pride events are like an entire month, and they're crazy and out of, in the drag queen stuff, you say, I don't think drag queens are appropriate for kids. You hate everybody who's a drag queen. No, I don't think they're appropriate for kids. You're right, we're not even speaking the same language, because this is what they worship now.
And they don't even define things like drag queen the way we would define it. Like when I said online that drag queens are not appropriate for kids, people were calling me a homophobe. And I was like, well, first of all, not all drag queens are going to be gay. And then they were calling me a transphobe. And I was like, so you're admitting that these are all just men in dresses? Like, what are you trying to say here? Because I thought these were all different things, but you're lumping it all into your ideology. And another thing I wanted to say is that I think the loss of religion thing, I think it's not just a loss of religion, or maybe this is another consequence of loss of religion, is the centering of yourself. And I remember reading about Renaissance artists. This will be relevant. And I remember reading about how there was some sort of cultural outrage during the Renaissance, people pushing back on it because the artists were making man or woman, this ordinary people or imaginary ordinary people, the center of their paintings instead of God or Jesus. And that became the God or godlike figure was a normal person. And in the Renaissance, the people in their culture, in their time, were pushing back on the centering of people instead of something bigger than us. And I remember when I read that as a teenager and thinking, oh, you're just a bunch of drama queens, get over yourselves. This is just the way art went, you should have seen that this was going to be popular and rolled with it. But now that I'm older and I'm seeing what's happening in our culture, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe the people that pushed back on the Renaissance saw this a long time ago, even though they were being dramatic back then. They saw this coming, this unraveling of knowing that, because I believe there is something bigger than us in the universe. I don't necessarily believe in a religion per se, but I do think that I would be foolish to say that there is just us and we're the center of it all. I think that's ridiculous. But the idea that people are living as if they are the center of the universe is, I think, really scary, and I think it's not healthy. We're encouraged in this behaviour because on the internet and online, everything is catered to us. Like, you can go on Spotify and you don't even have to listen to an album from start to finish in order that the artist made it anymore. You can just pick out the songs that you want and make a playlist tailored for you and play that every day, and that's all you ever hear. And you can pick your news feeds online. You can pick what news channels you want to listen to. You can go on Netflix, pick what films you want to watch. You don't have to go to the cinema and watch what everybody else is watching. And everything is tailored to you. When you log on to Facebook or Twitter, Facebook in particular, it says, what's on your mind? Everything's about you. So, and you can go online and you can shop online and get your shopping and click on everything, and somebody brings it to you, somebody in a uniform that you don't even see their face, you don't even recognize them as a human, comes and drops it to your house, and you have everything you've asked for. So everything revolves around you now, and I think that's really insidious. I think that's scary. I think it's unhealthy, and I think it's leading us to a bad place. It's not all bad, because I really love having the opportunity to make my own playlist on Spotify and skip the songs on the albums that I don't like. But we do have to have a sort of reckoning with where this is taking us.
No, I find that too when it comes to, media, that okay, hello, this is Politically Incorrect Knitters. We're kind of a niche YouTube channel, okay? I understand that. But that, when you have all the different members of the family and they're not all watching the same shows together, that they choose their individual things, and that you don't have that general audience. You don't have people who are even looking to please, or at least mostly please, everyone. You've always had some people who have been very individualistic, and they're, okay, this may only appeal to a certain amount of the population, but losing the art of, this is just fun that everyone can enjoy. Like, variety shows or other light sense of humor things, pop music, rock music, that it's like, okay, most people will generally enjoy this. And now we're getting really micro about things. And almost to the point of, what I'm listening to is something weird, and what you're listening to, I say weird, is something weird as in most people won't enjoy it, and what you're listening to might be most people don't enjoy it, and I'm not sharing my stuff with you because you will just be like, no, I can't handle the differences.
That's a really good point about how everything's becoming isolated as well. That's a really lonely way to live. And also with extracted, if you want to call it, the art of having to put up with things you don't like. I grew up in a family where I had like 4 younger brothers and only one TV in the house. And so I had to put up with watching things that they wanted to watch. They had to put up with watching things I wanted to watch. So it's that putting up with each other's stuff. We don't have to put up with that anymore. And I think that's created more intolerance and more division as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think everybody having their stuff. I mean, dude, you walk around, my husband and I are in a restaurant, right? My husband absolutely never uses his phone. I try not to use it like when we're doing things together. I mean, sometimes I will, but you look around, there was a couple, we went out on Valentine's Day, okay? He and I, we didn't realize it was Valentine's Day. We just ended up out to dinner together.
No.
That's how we are, because every day is Valentine's Day here. No. But there was a young couple at the table next to us. They weren't even speaking to each other. They were just on their phones. Like, everybody is just so, I think you're right. Everybody is just consumed with their own things.
That's sad though, isn't it? Like, I have a rule when I'm out. I don't have internet on my phone anyway. I took it off. So I only have the internet when I'm at home. When I'm out, I don't have the internet. And I think people find that bizarre when I tell them I don't look at my phone when I'm out. I'll only answer it if somebody's calling me while I'm out. And the only reason anybody would ever be calling me is for an emergency, because I don't do phone calls. So, it's bizarre to me. I mean, even me and my partner, we have sort of like a little thing with each other. Like, when we're talking to each other, we won't look at our phones, and I'll pull him up on it. I'll say, you're looking at your phone, or he'll pull me up on it and say, you're looking at your phone. And over the years, we've just stopped looking at our phone when we talk to each other, because it wasn't a normal thing to do in the first place.
Yeah. but now that's what everybody does. And my husband and I, I'm the one, because I've got social media. He doesn't even have that. But we're like, can you believe that they're on a date and they're not even looking at each other? Like, he and I have been married for a decade now. So if anybody's going to be doing that, it could be the people that have lived together for a long time and have kids. But no, this was like a college couple. Like, I just don't understand. Like,
I think,
all.
I think it's the other way around when you're with someone for a long time. Like me and my fellow have been together, like, I think 11 years now. And for some reason, we have more to talk about now than ever. It's just that we're always talking to each other all the time. I don't know how or why. It just is. Maybe I'm just chatty, but yeah.
I'm not saying that my husband and I don't talk to each other. I'm just
No,
saying that
it's not you.
in that situation, you would expect it to be like, okay, I live with you, I see you every day, so I can catch up on the news for a minute.
Yeah,
not somebody out on a date. I
actually think it is actually the other way around. I think if you live with someone for a long time and you're around them, you have more to say to them because there's always stuff to learn about each other, but also, like, you should always be interested in each other's opinion. It's weird to only just start going out with somebody, or I'm assuming these couples are new couples, they might not be, but it's weird to be going out with somebody, going on a date on Valentine's and not even talking to the person. What are you there for then? Like, Are you just on the phone in your own world, missing the moment you're in because you're looking at some moments that somebody else has posted or something else that's going on? You're not here now living this life. I think people are not doing that. I think they're imagining their life somewhere else or as something else, or wishing that they were somewhere else all the time. It's quite sad, isn't it?
It is. I didn't mean to get us off on that topic, sorry.
I wanted to go back to the Nazi topic really quickly because I haven't made a video about this yet, but there were some neo-Nazis that turned up in Australia at Kelly J. Keen's Let Women Speak. And that's been quite a difficult topic because they turned up to protest Let Women Speak and to protest trans activists. So they're against trans activists because they had a big sign saying something like destroy pedo freaks. So they're against it because they're homophobic. They rightly so don't want paedophilia to be accepted in society. So I agree with them on that. But they're also against Posey Parker, Kelly J. Keen, because they said that she defends lesbians and that lesbians contribute to the eradication of the white supreme race or something like that. All this. And what's interesting is people are claiming that the Nazis were there for Kelly J. Keen. And I thought that was really weird because the trans activists didn't have anything to say to the Nazis. And this goes back to what you said about how if they met a real Nazi, what would they say? They would say nothing. The trans activists and Antifa are supposedly anti-fascists. They're there to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to fight fascism. And they walked past the saluting Nazis. I nearly did a salute them, but I shouldn't. The saluting Nazis to attack women. And that, to me, said everything that we need to know. They don't care about fascism. They don't care about bigotry or homophobia or anything like that, even though I agree with the sign that paedophilia is not good, although I don't agree with saying that we should destroy people. I'll clear that up. But the whole thing of they actually just walked past these saluting Nazis to attack women. If that didn't speak volumes, I don't know what will. And I don't think it did speak volumes because all anybody said since then is that you're on the side of Nazis. You're on the side of Nazis. We can now call you Nazis now. I don't know what to say to it. It's mad.
Now, I believe it was Winston Churchill who said that, that the next group of fascists will call themselves anti-fascists.
Yeah, you're not allowed to like Winston Churchill anymore because he was a bit racist, even though everyone in his time was a bit racist.
Yeah. That's one thing I can't get over is them trying to change. Like, in the past, things were different, and it may not be correct.
He would have been seen as progressive. I think he would have been seen as quite progressive in the past, in his day. I think ordinary people would have had much more what we consider to be racist views, and they might have legitimately been racist back in those days. I think Winston Churchill wouldn't have been the worst one.
But yeah, it is a shocking thing. And, again, back to the, there's actually Nazis standing there, that you do run into the issue now of, it's like, okay, we're being called Nazis. We know we're not Nazis. And we know that we don't believe what they believe. But then you do get certain groups of people who are like, oh yeah, they'll call us Nazis. We're all in now. And it's like, oh wow, you're actual white supremacists. That's awful. Like, and that is something that Trump has been accused of all the time. That was the main rivalry thing, where all the knitters were booted off because Trump support was considered unequivocal white supremacy. And we're like, whoa, not cool.
This is what happens when you don't encounter white supremacists or real Nazis in your life. I've never encountered anybody like that. I don't know anybody. I've never even, as far as I'm aware, even rubbed shoulders in the street with somebody who's actually a Nazi. It's just not been around in my lifetime. Racists, maybe, but Nazi, no.
Yeah. No, that they are such a small, like, just infinitesimal part of the population. And yet
I thought it was insane.
Nazi, they've actually like grown a bit, and like, whoa, dude.
Well, when I saw the video,
wow.
When I saw the video, I didn't realise they were neo-Nazis. I thought they were Antifa because they dressed the same, right? They're wearing the same uniform. And my second thought about it was, how absurd is it that in 2023, like nearly 100 years after the fact, there are people in another country calling themselves Nazis when, like, Nazi was like the National German Socialist Party. It's like it blows my mind. It blows my mind that you'd just be part of something like that. I was like, this is weird. This is like the weirdest, most niche thing I can think of. But they're out there, so
right. And I would suppose that's like, okay, if that is genuinely what you're into, you have other things going on, and you need. It's like, okay, you have some issues that you need to iron out. But it's like, okay, that can be expressed in a lot of weird ways. Kind of like the Nick Fuentes guy hanging out with Kanye West is like, oh wow,
who's Nick Palente? Who is this guy?
It's Fuentes, that he's like actual genuine anti-Semitic weird.
Oh, I think I heard of him. Didn't Pearly, what's her name, do an interview with her recently, and quite a few people were not happy about it. Pearly did an interview with him, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pearly Davies, I think her name is. I don't know. It's just something I've heard.
I know, it's one of those things where it's going on. I don't want to get into that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's wacky stuff.
Yeah,
it is weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is a niche thing. It's such a niche thing. Like, I didn't even think there were, for ages I've been saying, well, there aren't any Nazis, because I've never met one. There aren't any. But seeing that there was a group that call themselves neo-Nazis, I don't know what the difference is. I think neo is just like the new version. I don't know. It was really bizarre. I mean, I've seen as well that the police sort of let them be there, and that I wasn't too surprised about. If you believe in free speech, then you believe that everyone should be allowed at these rallies, right? You should believe that everyone should be allowed to protest.
Yep.
But that free speech that the police allows is awfully select. And it's like, why? And I think too that the media are, well, what was it? I'm trying to think of, the Canadian trucker protests, how everything was wonderful and everything was actually peaceful. And when there was vandalism, the truckers would stop that immediately. Any sort of violence, they were very well regulated. but one guy with a Nazi flag, and every single news outlet showed the one guy. And then, you know, Trudeau got out there and talked about the Nazis at this protest, that these were misogynists and these were, you know, white supremacists and these were the rest of it. When no, the Canadian truckers really were going for medical freedom, but the media loved to show the picture of the one guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I think it's like my conspiratorial mind here is that I have thought about, are people like that independently going to things like the trucker incident or the trucker protest or Kelly J. King's protest to discredit the protest, or are they on behalf of somebody else or on behalf of an organisation or on behalf of the news and whatnot, going there to discredit people? Because that seems more plausible to me than neo-Nazis just want to protest women. I mean, maybe they do. I mean, trans activists show up, so why wouldn't neo-Nazis show up?
Right. The wild thing.
I don't know. So before the Kelly J. Keen thing, it seemed like all of a sudden you were getting a lot of hate again. Has something new happened, or is that just actually something did happen. Okay, I asked my Alexa, I've got like a little Alexa speaker for Christmas or something last year. I asked it what a woman is, and it gave me the reaction, and I filmed it like TikTok style and I posted it on Facebook, and that got like 500,000 views, and then all the hate came in on that. And so I get a fresh wave of hate every now and again when people find me again and they go, oh, I didn't know she existed, and all that. But sometimes I just, because I ignore a lot of it because I don't care, and sometimes I put it up and I go, look, this is what's happening, or this person seems nice, because what they're saying is really not nice. And sometimes, like, I made a video the other day of the hate that I got, some of the hate that I got for the What Is a Woman video, but I actually had like at least maybe 4 or 5 other videos worth, but I just picked out some of the ones that made me laugh. So I don't know. I don't think I get more hate than, I don't know how much hate everybody else gets that speaks about this. I think I do get a lot of hate, but I get a lot of support. Like, the support outnumbers the hate by far, and maybe I should shout out the support more often, but the hate makes me laugh more. Yeah, I mean, if you can laugh at it, that's what you've got to do, because they think that they're going to ruin you, and
They
so I
think
don't
I'm
think there's
crying.
anything wrong with
Yeah, they
highlighting
think I'm crying. They think I'm devastated. They think I'm questioning myself. Should I be speaking? Should I be doing this? And that ain't it. Like, I got cancelled by people we knew. Like, some of them we knew for nearly a decade. That, the hurt off of that, you can't top that. You know, you can't top it. So strangers on the internet telling me I'm ugly or I look like a man or whatever, water off a duck's back. I don't care.
Well, I mean, if who are they to say what a man is, or if you look like one, or you?
They keep saying I look trans as well. Like, I
Oh,
didn't know trans had a look. I think that's quite transphobic that you're saying trans has a look.
the nonsense. So if I randomly went up to somebody I didn't like and I said, "You look like the opposite gender," or "You look trans," I would be a transphobe.
Yeah, but they're allowed to do it to me.
It's crazy.
I think it's ridiculous. And I like showing it sometimes because I think people don't realise. And a lot of people don't believe cancel culture is a real thing as well. They think it's just getting called names on the internet. So I intend to talk more about that in the future as well, about like actually what happens when people get cancelled. It's not celebrities getting called names on the internet. It's real people losing their livelihoods. It's real people losing their friends, their support network. It's real people having their family members threatened and things like that. That bit hasn't happened to me because nobody knows my family members, and my family members would not put up with that. So I'm lucky in that respect. But other people have had that, like their family members being threatened, their friends. We've had our friends threatened. People don't want to associate with us because they don't want to be harmed in some way. So there's that going on. And I think that's worth talking about. With regards to the online hate I get, that is more tongue-in-cheek that I post that. And I post it because I want to show people how absurd the arguments are. Like for some people, genuinely, their argument, all they've got to say about any of what I say is you're ugly. That's their argument. What does that offer? Do you want the law to be changed and your argument for it is she's ugly? But that's not good enough.
I'm sorry, but I have kids, right? Like a 7 and a 9-year-old. And on occasion, somebody will come in and be like, they told me I look stupid today. And I'm like, okay. Like, so some of your haters haven't gotten past that yet.
No, they haven't. And people don't realize I think, do you know what it is? People react negatively to resilience as well. And I think I'm a resilient person. And I think they sense that and they don't like it and it scares them and it makes them lash out at me because they want to break me. And it ain't going to happen. It ain't. You've come up against somebody who's gone through a lot worse shit than being called names on the internet. And I don't care.
Yep.
Right.
Definitely. And at some point you gotta be like, okay, yes, somebody could be out there on the internet and legitimately threatening you. Okay. And someone could be, doing campaigns and getting you fired from the job. All very real things. But at some point, if people are just throwing insults, you're like, yeah, but you're an internet person. You don't know me. Like, okay, whatever. Bye.
You've got a dog on a rainbow with a hat on as your profile picture. Like, you're not a real person to me. You're just a weirdo on the internet who's got way too much time and not enough things going on in your head.
Yeah. When people come after me, one of my favorite things to do, because we are knitters, is I like to tell them that they should get a hobby and maybe they should try knitting. Like, because that's why we're here. Like,
I don't know. I'm just seeing in my mind this big banner: "Fear no anime girls."
Like, yeah, well, it is just it is an issue we've got in our society with a lot of people being chronically online. I've heard that phrase recently. I was thinking about that because I thought, oh, am I chronically online? Do I need to cut back my online time? Like, I think about things like that. But there are people that are actually chronically online and they don't go outside. They don't do anything else with their time. And some of the ways people speak to me, I can't imagine ever speaking to anyone like that, even online. I would never randomly message someone, calling them names, telling them they're scum of the earth and that they're ugly and all of this stuff. It would never enter my mind to do that to anybody for any reason. If I don't like somebody, I scroll on. And that's it. I don't take no time out of my day because I've got other things to do and other things to think about. So it really baffles me that there's people out there like this. But I don't think we should underestimate how serious that is, because these people are living their life without a proper meaning or purpose. And that's why they go after people like me, right? Because it gives them a sense of accomplishment for the day. That's sad.
Right. And I think it goes back to that. They need something to fill them up. Their life is not fulfilling, so they're filling it with the internet. They're filling it with their fanaticism for their causes, which is attacking you or attacking other people that they don't agree with, because they don't have, somebody's mean to me on the internet. Yeah, I might get a little bit like, ugh, people on the internet. But then I go and I hang out with my kids or my husband or my mom or whatever it is. I go knit and I'm happy. Like, I don't, I don't think I'm quite as resilient as you. When people call me names and stuff, I do have a tendency to get kind of down because nobody likes to be heaped on.
It's not worth it. What do they know about you? Nothing.
You know what, Birdie? Before I did this, I was one of the world's shyest people. So I think it's just a holdover of my old personality. Like, sometimes I just can't help it. But then I'm like, but I've got all of these other things that fill up my life. I don't need to worry about it. But I think that that's a huge part of it, is that they're just, if they were happy, they wouldn't care about you. or me or Anne, they would be living their happy life. They wouldn't have to be telling you that you're a Nazi or a transphobe or whatever it is.
I think they look stupid. I think that's why I share it as well. Like, look how stupid this person looks. Look at this person's stupid argument. Look how miserable they are. Not that they would ever be ashamed, because they seem to be completely shameless, like devoid of the emotion of shame.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I would say, kind of bringing back to what we said, or what you said before, about it being a very religious kind of a language. I mean, like, okay, I'm a Christian, and I find that when talking with certain groups of Christians, that you're like, oh, I said this and I meant this word, but you said the same thing and you have a different definition for that. And that you kind of get that with online arguments too, where you might say, okay, look at this is a stupid argument, and someone else might look at that and be like, oh, well, her side is actually the stupid one, and we're both looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Totally different results.
That happened to me recently. It's sort of similar thing. It was somebody got into my inbox and sent me this enormous, I didn't even read it, I'll be honest. I didn't. I saw the words two-spirit and native, and my eyes just went, and I just thought, oh, I'm not reading this. And all I wrote back was, thank you very much. I don't believe in your religion, so I won't be reading that. And then this person wrote back and said, no, but you need to read this. This is proof that, proof of more than two genders or something. And I just wrote, thank you very much. I don't believe in your religion. I already know what a woman is. I don't need to read any sort of religious text to tell me what a woman is. And this person just kept coming back at me. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't believe in your religion. It's all good. Thank you. And this person was like getting really wound up. And I was like, no, I don't believe in your religion. Thank you very much. And this person came back to me.
I have shut the door and I've drawn the curtain.
Yes.
To get off my doorstep. That would be really great.
Exactly what's happened. And this person came back to me and was like, oh, you obviously, you're not very intelligent. You only went to school for the bus ride and all of this stuff. And then I said, look, I'm just not interested in your religion. That's all it is. And then this person came back to me, and apparently she or he, I didn't look at the profile, so I don't know whether it's man or woman, said, I'm going to screenshot all of this and use it for my lecture to show my students how stupid you are, or something like that. And so I screenshotted it and I shared it on my social media, and I said, lucky me, this conversation is going to be used for a lecture. I hope the students learn something valuable from it, because I was thinking, I don't know what it is the student could learn from this, other than the fact that their teacher won't take no for an answer. Like, literally, I've just told you, I don't believe in your religion. You should have left it as that.
Right.
It's insane.
That is insane. And it's always funny to me, the people that are some of the loudest ones are like teachers, or like people that have like fairly okay jobs. Like, this is what you do in your free time? Is that you're like a
this is what they do in their classroom. That's even worse.
Well, that's terrifying. And that's the reason I homeschool, because now I know what my kids are learning.
Did you see what I put up about that professor at Wayne State University?
I did.
The professor that said that it is far more admirable to kill people you disagree with than to shout them down. And shouting people down, like, I'm pretty sure in America, you have protected free speech to a much more meticulous extent than we have over here. We don't protect it in the same way you guys do. But I'm pretty sure even shouting somebody down is taking away their right to speak, right? So you're censoring somebody. So you're still advocating to break the law, because this professor wrote in the start of his message or his status that he's not advocating to break the law. And then he said, but it is far more admirable to kill people. Yeah. And then he went on to write about, transphobes, homophobes, the right. So I would need to talk to you guys, actually. Do you feel like, am I imagining this or not, the right is being attacked in America in a way that it is being attacked here, but it is scary in America that the far left extremists are advocating for killing people just for being on the right.
I think they are, but I also think that it's not just the right. It's there
Anybody
really
who doesn't
is
kiss their ass, right?
right, but there's
Anybody
really no
who's
respect
not
for
on
like
the
the
left.
religious right. Like we saw it this week or this whatever with the school shooting.
Yeah, in
That
Nashville,
trans
right?
person shot up a Christian school, and nobody's talking about the Christian school. There was no news about the big prayer vigil that was held there, but we're having these trans rallies that everybody's talking about. Why aren't we talking about the people that got hurt?
But
like,
how is it that everyone's talking about a trans genocide? And if this was let's reverse the roles. If this was a Christian shooter that shot trans kids, even though I don't believe there's such thing, trans kids, we would be having a conversation about how this was a targeted attack. But there's not a conversation about targeting Christian school and Christians in general. This is apparently a conversation about trans genocide and how trans are always the victim in everything. And this is apparently the moment that we need to be talking about trans people being in danger. Really? No. This is getting weird from the news. This is getting weird.
Right. Well, it's kind of it's kind of like how, after 9/11 in America, that we had more immigration from Muslim countries afterwards. And it's kind of weird to purposefully, like, because policy changed in order for that to happen so that there would be more immigration from Muslim countries. That's not even saying all Muslims, are going to do 9/11. That's not what I mean. But it's like, hey, if this is behind an attack, why aren't we looking, to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Why are we sort of celebrating this? An old joke, but that, people in Muslim communities are concerned about the backlash from tomorrow's bombing. That it's like, wait, hang on, like, why is the first thing when something terrible happens is to jump on and make it's difficult.
It's
right.
Skip to the end thinking, right? People are more worried about the end result than what's happening right now. So in that case, like, we have these grooming gangs in the UK that are a majority like Muslim men or men from Muslim predominant countries. And so we have this grooming gang situation that's been going on since the 70s, and the police have been overlooking it, not doing anything about it because they don't want to get called a racist. And when you bring it up, the first thing people say is, yeah, but now think about all the backlash that all the Muslim communities are going to get, or the Asian communities in not Asian communities, but like black and brown people of color.
In England,
think about the backlash they're going to get, right? And my first thought is, well, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about this. We should absolutely talk about this. If this is a thing that's going on, which it is, by the way, if it's a thing that's going on, we should be able to talk about it clearly without advocating to, I don't know, punish all the Muslims in your area, because that's not going to solve anything. They're not involved. I mean, it's not being Muslim that made them do it. It's that they are criminals who don't respect the law in the UK and have come here to be a part of a grooming gang and a grooming ring. And that is the problem, in my opinion.
Right. And that because people are afraid to say this group or that group has this problem in it that should be addressed.
Yeah. And also, I have to address something I just did as well, that we say Muslim as if that is a race or an ethnicity or a group of people, but that is just like a religion that a lot of the people in the grooming gang subscribe to. So it's not like being a Muslim makes you a groomer. It's that a lot of people in that religion that come from other countries that are ruled by that religion, or countries where that religion is the main religion, and they come over here and they're doing the grooming gang shit. And people say, oh yeah, but there's white grooming gangs as well. There's white pedophiles, there's white gang members. Yeah, but we're allowed to talk about those ones. These ones we're not allowed to talk about. And that's the point. We need to be able to talk about all of them.
Right. And exactly. I mean, and you have that thing with the protected groups that it's like, okay, we can't talk about, you said, this pedophilia problem, these grooming gang problems, this, young women being harmed actively and consistently, and the police covering for it problems. And then we have these sort of things cropping up with, that you have drag queen story hour, and they're like, hey, at the library, this, person who's a drag queen is also a convicted pedophile. Why didn't you tell the parents? And stuff like
But
that.
we're not allowed to talk about that.
You're like, well, you're
Right.
going to say that every single drag queen is a pedophile. And it's like, we're saying that someone is being covered up for because that they're part of a protected group, and it needs to be mentioned. It needs to be brought up.
I don't believe that groups should be protected. I mean, we have hate crime laws in the UK, hate crime laws. I think we should get rid of them, because basically what hate crime laws do is prioritize and add extra weight to certain crimes that are done to the protected groups. Whereas the way I see it, if you break the law, you break the law. I mean, it's not worse if it's to a protected group. And you can't necessarily say that it was motivated by a specific prejudice unless the person that did it admits to that. You can't predict what they're thinking in their mind or what the motive is, although I know that in the judicial system, a lot of it is about trying to find a motive, right? But I feel uneasy about if somebody got into a fight if a white person got into a fight with a black person, they beat up that black person because they're racist, not because they were having a fight. That's weird. I don't know if that was a good analogy or not. I'll work on it. But it's just weird to do that and to prioritize, like, trans is in the protected category, like gender identity is protected. Sex isn't. So crimes against women are not protected. So you can harass me, threaten me, do what you want to me. The police are not going to prioritize it unless I say I'm trans. That doesn't make any sense. And that's not fair. It's not a fair way to operate. And additionally, that means that there are now feminists advocating for misogyny to become a hate crime, which I'm also against, because the definition of misogyny is also extremely broad. And I have said to feminists that if we do get misogyny made into a hate crime in England, you could be the one going to prison because you could be committing misogyny against a trans woman. So be careful what you wish for with it. Yeah.
No, definitely. And also that it's like, okay, if you murder somebody, the hate is implied. Murder, still wrong.
It's quite a hateful thing to do, right?
Yeah, murder is pretty hateful. But you have the picture of Lady Justice. She is blind. Why is she blind? Because any person from any race or background can be either victim or perpetrator. Anybody. And that's why she is blind. And that's, equity. People always talk about that erases all that. It's not equal. You're not equal before the law. You're not on a level playing field because of that. It's like, oh, well, that's justice because in the past things were. No, that's not justice at all for anyone. That society does not work if we are not all equal before the law. The founding fathers in America were very, that we believe that everyone is created equal. That is a firm basis for the law, and saying some groups are better than others just makes everything shaky, because the groups are going to change and you're going to be on the out. And even if you're not on the out, it's still not right.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I mean. Like when you said about protected groups, my brain just went ding, 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 ding. Yes, this is it. We can't prioritize one group of people above another. And I don't believe that we should have a society where one group of people has the power over another group of people, especially over something stupid like, oh, I want to be a woman, therefore I'm more protected than you. It's like, what? You believe something weird. That doesn't mean you should be protected above everybody else. You should have the same rights as everybody else has got. And that's that.
But I was going to go back to what you said before about, is it particularly worse in America or more violent? And it's a hard thing to kind of judge, because like you mentioned, the grooming gang situation, we in America would see that and go, whoa, But I know that from England, looking over here, that there are different things like violent crime in cities that you'd be like, well, but we don't have that, or it expresses itself in a different way.
Yeah, we have knife crime. Serious problem with knife crime among teenagers. A majority of them are teenage boys between the age of 13 and 19. Last year, it was 122 teenagers killed by knife crime, and they're killed by teenagers that are in that age range. So the teenagers that are killed are between 13 and 19, and the murderers are between 13 and 19, majority boys, and a majority of the boys that are killed are not white. So I don't know why this isn't being talked about among the woke people who prioritize anyone who's not white above everybody else, because they should be talking about it, but it doesn't fit their narrative because a majority of the perpetrators are also not white.
Right.
Right.
And that's the same here. We have so much like black on black gun violence, but nobody talks about it. But if a white cop does something to a black person, it's all they can bring up. And it's not saying that one is all violence against people is bad and we should stop it and we should highlight it so that we can do better. If people don't realize what's happening.
I think if we're detracting from the event by focusing on characteristics that people have no control over, such as skin color or so-called gender identity, then we're not going to get to the root of the reason why these kids are killing each other. We're not going to come up with a solution. We're not going to prevent further acts of violence by not talking truthfully and honestly about what is going on. Like, is it, for example, the fact that these kids are in deprived areas where gang members operate? Is that the more likely reason rather than this is because of white supremacy? Or is it because these kids are growing up without a sense of purpose and maybe they're majority in fatherless homes? I mean, fatherless homes is a massive problem in the UK. I grew up in a fatherless home for the most part, and a lot of people around me did. A lot of people in my family did as well. So has that got something to do with it? Is it that the education system is failing these kids and that they don't feel like they're going to get anywhere in the future? They don't feel like that they can have anything. I've met kids before that have, well, I'll say it. One of my cousin's children said once when she was about 9 years old, she said to me, I'll never have a nice house. And I said, why? Why wouldn't you have just, people like us don't have things like that. And I was blown away that at such a young age, there are kids thinking like that. They think, I'll never be one of those people. I can never step outside of my circumstances and make a life of myself that I enjoy, that I'm proud of. And that helplessness is something that is learned. It's not innate in us to be helpful. The whole reason that the human race has survived, or the human species has survived, is because we are always fighting to survive. We're always fighting to stay here. Every single one of us has fought to stay here from the moment of conception. So it doesn't make sense that these kids are so helpless in a way. And also, we've got that, and then add on the internet and the division and, identity politics, and all of this could be playing a role in it. Like, there was a young man that was a teenage boy that was killed called Brianna. He identifies as trans, and he was reported as a young woman who was killed. He was killed by other teenagers, and nobody wants to talk about why he was killed. Everybody's blaming TERFs and transphobia and the ramping up of transphobia in Britain. And my mind's been blown because there's been a big fuss made about it. And I'm not saying it's not justified to be outraged about this teenager's death, because it is horrific. But in a town very close to where I live, another teenage boy was also stabbed to death, and not a word has been said about him because he doesn't meet the protected group criteria. And it blows my mind that in my town, we had a vigil and everything for this young man that was killed, this young boy that was killed, and they were talking about how we need to stamp out transphobia and we need to get rid of bigots and TERFs and all of this. And it's like, there's another boy literally down the road that was killed and nobody's talking about him. It's insane that this prioritizing of one group over another and only talking about that. We're not talking about why on the same day 2 teenage boys have been killed by teenagers. We're not talking about that.
I think a big thing is that people focus on what forwards their narrative. So talking about grooming gangs isn't gonna, because nobody wants to talk about the fact that in the UK, most of those people are predominantly from Muslim countries, because that looks like racism. Or
I even feel bad talking about it, because I don't want to perpetuate a negative attitude towards anyone. And it's the same with the trans issue. But even like when I made that video about Kelly J. Keane in New Zealand, I don't want to say these are all bad people, but it sure looks like they are. They're behaving in a really bad way. They're not helping themselves.
Well, I think that when you're in that situation, okay, if a trans person went there to protest Kelly J. Keane coming and went with good intentions and then saw this breaking out and didn't do anything to stop it or help, then you are perpetuating it, whether that was your intent or not.
I think
that's the thing.
I had a bone to pick with Kerry Smith and forgot to do it on the live the other day, but I'll probably do it privately. And now I'm doing it on here, so everybody's going to know before she does. But she said something about how this isn't fair on transsexuals who, you know, are not denying reality. They do just get on with their life, and I acknowledge that, right? But not enough of them speak out. Who have we got? We've got like Buck Angel, Blair White, Rose of Dawn. They're like, off the top of my head, the only ones who speak out and say, I don't condone this violence. I don't condone the silencing of women. I don't condone the grooming of children. Nobody else really speaks out. And it can be scary, but it ain't that scary if someone like me is doing it and I'm a wimp. So, you know, it can't, I just don't get it. If trans people, if there are transgender people out there that really are just living their lives and they don't approve of all this, they should say something. They really should, because if it was my people, I would be saying something. But, you know, I do differentiate between transgenders and transsexuals, because the old school transsexuals I've met, they weren't in this ideology when they went through what they went through in their life. They weren't ideologically groomed by the internet. They weren't radicalized in this way. So I got in trouble recently as well for not having an opinion on abortion.
Oh, I thought you did.
Well, I did when we spoke last year. I had somewhat of an opinion, didn't I? And it was a little bit sort of like, my opinion last year was that I don't feel comfortable with the government telling people what to do with their bodies. I still agree with that. I still don't feel comfortable with it, because we saw it with the vaccine mandates that people were advocating for, which is crazy. And now we're seeing it with the abortion argument, you know, sort of like, should the government be able to tell you you're not allowed to do that? I don't feel comfortable with that. But I have shifted my opinion on abortion a bit, and I have not spoken about it. And because I haven't gone on Facebook or Twitter and spoken about abortion the way I speak about the trans issue or whatever, I did get in trouble for it. I've had quite a few people not happy with me. They've said that I am a self-proclaimed pro-lifer and that I fund a forced birthing association.
Oh, cool.
Ow.
So tell us more about that. How did you get into that?
Well,
I didn't know about you.
Well,
birthing association.
Well, it's because I haven't said anything, and they obviously didn't watch our episode that when we talked about it. But I haven't said, it's just not been on my radar as something to talk about, because in the UK we're not having a big fight over abortion like you guys did. It's not been a thing. Although I do think that feminists, and I will say feminists, I will call the feminists out on this, feminists of all calibers, want to bring this fight to us in the UK. And they want to have this argument for abortion rights all over again. And they're not happy with what they've got. And what they've got is what I think is a really good deal on the law here in the UK, that you can have abortions, it is your choice, and you can have it up to a certain point. I think that's reasonable. I think that's, totally reasonable. They're not happy with it, so they want to have the abortion argument all over again. So there have been some feminists that were not happy with me because I didn't have an opinion on abortion, and I object to being told what to do. So when I was told that I had to make an announcement to let everybody know what my opinion on abortion is, I said no, I don't have to do anything. I don't owe you anything. And I got in trouble for that. But it's one of these things that demonstrates how people are so wound up and tied up into this sense of identity that the people you follow and the people you like have to have all the same views as you. No, they don't. You might not like my views on a lot of things, especially the music I listen to. You might hate it, but you've got to see me as a human being that has my own experiences, my own perspective, and my own mind. I trust my mind.
But that's the thing that people don't do anymore. They don't look at people and say, I think Birdy is great. I think that her trans stuff is fantastic. I might not agree with you when it comes to religion or abortion, but we don't have to completely agree on everything to get along, to be friends, to have discussions, because if we all agreed, this would be a horribly boring conversation.
Yeah, of course it would. And I thought that when we talked about abortion last time, because we didn't agree.
Mm-hmm. And that's okay, because you're not going to try to change my mind, and you respect what I believe and what Anne believes, and we're not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong because you think that women should be allowed to. I personally don't think women should be allowed to, but that's my belief. You don't have to have that, and that's the difference.
I think I've shifted a little bit. I think that I don't think the government should be allowed to tell us what to do with our bodies, but I don't think people are being honest about what abortion is either. So I mean, I'm kind of there. I'm at that point.
Since we've talked, I mean, I didn't know back in the day when we talked before, but 73% of abortions in the US are because of financial troubles. So you're not so there's a problem. There's a problem, and abortion really isn't the answer for a lot of people, because like you said, you don't have all the information. They're not necessarily being truthful about why they're choosing to do things.
Well, we're not being honest. Just like a lot of the issues we've talked about today, people are not willing to have an honest conversation about what this is.
And
also, because DK mentioned it, this is a quick plug for Let Them Live. She has a knit along. Sorry to stop the conversation for it, but
that's all right.
No, but since we did get on the abortion topic, I'm going to throw in a shameless plug here. Look at all of these teeny tiny hats my mom has been making. We're doing a knit along for babies this month, the April Showers knit along, and you guys can join and make baby knits. They don't have to be donated. They can be something you're going to gift or keep for yourself or whatever. But knit for the babies this month. We're doing a little thing on Instagram. You can find out more about it. Sorry to interrupt.
I love that. That's lovely.
Thank you. But a lot of women don't really realize. A lot of them, like we've had Anna Knitter on, who's a German knitter. She works with the German pro-life, or she did work with the German pro-life organization, and she said, a lot of women, they make them tiny baby socks because they don't realize, when you're pregnant. I've been pregnant twice, and it's very surreal. And until your stomach is big and you can feel the baby moving, it's not really there. Like, it's there, but it's like, but how do I know it's there? How do I know if it's okay? How do I? And so they give them little things to kind of help them see that, like, this is. I mean, this is for a preemie, obviously, because this is tiny, but but it helps people understand what it is. Anyway, that was totally off topic.
And with talking about how people not being honest about abortion, that and it's something that Anna Knitter brought up as well, that they'll have people come in and say, like, I thought my only option was abortion, or I wasn't told this issue, or I was told that people who are pro-life, didn't care about me and wouldn't want to support me even after the baby is born, that they only, like the phrase that you use, forced birther, that is like,
I've never heard it before. I was like,
right?
Oh, that's a big one here. Yeah, if you are not pro-choice, you are a forced birther. You are not pro-life.
This is the same with the trans argument, right? If you're not pro-trans, you're anti-trans.
Right.
Right.
Whereas I just don't want to be trans.
It don't make any sense.
Yeah. I'm not anti-trans. I just don't want, I'm not trans. I don't think you should be shoving it down people's throats. If some dude somewhere says I'm a woman and that's what they live, then they live it. I don't have to know. That's the
and
other
you don't
problem
have to affirm it either. You don't owe that to anybody to tell them that they are a woman.
Right. If I meet him and he looks like a woman to me, then I'm going to treat him as a woman. If he looks like a man in a dress, I probably won't interact with him because I won't know what to do. But if you're living your truth, you don't need me to affirm you. That's see, it goes back to that whole thing where everybody's so self-centered. What I think doesn't matter. I am nobody to you. Why do you care?
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, that's a really good answer, because people say to me, oh, why does this matter to you? It doesn't affect you. It's none of your business. And then I say back to them, why does what I think matter to you? It doesn't affect you. It's none of your business. And they don't know what to say.
right. Man, I could just go on and on, but actually we've been going for like ever. So
Yeah, it has been a while. Sorry.
Do you guys have anything that you want to mention that we haven't talked about? Birdie, you want to talk about your new merch? Do you still have the hats or?
Oh yeah, I've got this RIP Your Feelings. That I made that for Halloween. But I do have merch on my website. I've actually remade my website a bit as well in January. I think it was in January or last month. I just sort of like revamped it a bit, and I've put some new stuff on there, so it's worth having a look. Yeah. The Famous Artist Birdy Rose.com.
Are your hats in stock?
Yes. These ones. I've got some green ones with black kisses on them. I call them kisses, but they're X chromosomes. And I've got some caramel ones with black kisses on them, and I've got a black one with white kisses on them, and a blue petrol blue one with white kisses on them. So they're available in my shop as well.
Cool. They're awesome. And I think I saw a really cool sticker pack in your shop, or that you were promoting. I saw a really cool sticker pack, I think, and I wanted to buy it, but it's not in the budget yet. But yeah,
I'm
so
making good sticker packs.
They're really cool looking. So yeah, make sure you check out Birdie. Make sure you check out the fabulous Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. Use the code Fool 20
PIK.
Yeah, use the code Fool 20 PIK to get 20% off your order in the month of April. I've done this before, I swear. And make sure you follow Birdie. She's on Instagram, Twitter, right?
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere? She's everywhere as the Famous Artist Birdy Rose. Anne and I are everywhere as Pinkava and Deplorable Knitter. So find us. And thanks for joining us. It's been awesome.
It's been great. I really did look forward to it as well. So excited to come back on.
It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.